Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Childcare Bridge podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your childcare center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Childcare Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
Zero cognitive load. You might be thinking, what on earth is Michael talking about? In today's episode of the Childcare Bridge, I want to give you a continuation of the StoryBrand framework, concepts, and a couple of really big takeaways that have me rethinking a lot of what I do on a tour, a lot of content that I have on my website, and what I've been advising fellow childcare center owners to do for quite some time. And the topic that has really got me rethinking it is this notion of zero cognitive load. Now, I would be lying to you if I was like, yeah, I knew exactly what that meant. I actually had absolutely no idea. Like maybe conceptually, but when Don Miller of StoryBrand last week in Nashville was explaining it, it started to click. And then later in the afternoon, it clicked again, and it just made sense. So I'm going to give you a non-childcare example to just kind of get your mind thinking along this line. And then as we talk through this, I think you're going to start to connect the dots very quickly. So pretend that you've got a clogged sink upstairs, and you firmly believe, well, it's probably just a bunch of hair that was flying around, and that's what's clogging up the sink. So you go to the supermarket or Walmart or Target or Costco, wherever you like to shop. We'll finally have a Costco this summer. I'm very excited. And you go to the aisle, and you are looking at 50 different options. You've got Drano, and you've got fast dissolving, and you've got rapid dissolver, and quick release, and max pressure, and all these different, not only brands, but things that are being set on the front. And then you spot one, maybe it's toward the bottom, and on it, it says, dissolves hair. Which one do you think you're going to pick up or be most connected to? It's going to be the one that says dissolves hair. And the reason behind that is twofold. Number one, this zero cognitive load is all about you having to think about things to either make a decision, react, move the needle on something. And you're getting bombarded with 10 to 30,000 different messages or prompts every day. 10 to 30,000. Our brains are not able to process that amount of stimulus coming at us on a daily basis. You get into this fatigue of making decisions and just being able to do something with everything that's coming at you. So when you don't have to think, and that is what this zero cognitive load means, you're much more likely to make a decision. So when you're trying to read all the like, should I get the quick dissolving or the rapid one or the one that's meant for plastic piping or won't hurt the pipes or plumber recommended, but then you're drawn to the one that says dissolves hair. So one, again, it's the zero cognitive load, but number two, it's calling out your problem. It's calling out your problem. So those are the two topics that we're going to talk through today. The zero cognitive load and calling out problems. So if you look at your childcare center, if we're trying to really get to the core of what are the problems, and it's not the problems that you're being faced with, it's the problems that your potential families are experiencing. So last week we talked all about you being the guide. So when you think about it, often you put your childcare center or you or your director as the hero of the story. That's not what we're looking for here. So if you didn't listen to last week's episode, I highly encourage you to re-listen to that. You're the guide. So a hero is kind of walking along, they encounter a problem, they fall into a pit. You're the guide, you hand them a rope because you've been there, you have the knowledge, you have the answer, you give them a rope, you pull them out, and you help guide them to safety, a better life, whatever that is. They're the main character. They need to be front and center. Now, with this whole notion of problems, what I've been realizing and looking at a lot of content that even I had on my website for all the centers that I own was that I really wasn't calling out the problem. I wasn't agitating the problem enough. I've talked a little bit in the past about how much faster people will run away from a problem than they will run to pleasure. So people will run so much faster away from pain. So for example, I'll use a not a fun example, but God forbid your spouse wants to serve you divorce papers and says, if you don't change, I'm going to divorce you and you're going to lose the house and half your money and all this fun stuff. You're going to run a lot faster knowing that there's a lot of potential pain that could be being caused or right around that corner. You're going to move quick. So we're often not talking enough about the problems that your families are encountering. So when you put yourself in their shoes, you need to make sure that before you're putting out lots of new content and tweaking your tour language and things like that, which we'll talk about in just a minute, that you need to fully understand their problems. And their problem isn't just they need care. The problem could be they want to be supermom and they want to actually have their child at home while they work, while they grow in their career, but they need care, but they also need it to where they're able to rest easy during the day and if they want to quickly check in on things because they're a control freak or something like that. You might have other families that have very different needs. Like their big problem is they work a schedule that changes on a regular basis. But ultimately, I mean, they do need care to solve one of the other problems that they're encountering at home. But when you start to dig deeper, well, why is that important to you? Well, I need the care so that I can grow the corporate ladder. I need it so that I can work another job. I can have a couple of days to myself to actually get errands done and things done around the house. I don't have the insight to be able to help kind of train or school my son or daughter, and I want them to have that Montessori curriculum because I never had it. Like there's always going to be other things that you're going to uncover, but I need you to look at how much content on your website during your tours are you talking about the pain, and then if they don't solve the problem, what other pain is going to end up happening? Great, you're looking for care. You told me that your problem is like you need this ASAP because you're struggling. You could potentially lose your job. And I can't even imagine that. Like if I were to lose my job, I'd be behind on my bills. I probably wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I'd be embarrassed to my spouse. Like all these other things, you need to exacerbate that pain. So I want you to go on the hunt the next couple of weeks and really look at what are some of the other problems and pain points that families are sharing with you, because it's not just they need care. There's always more to the story, always more. And those pain points, those problems allow you to kind of tweak and cater the content. But if I jump back, so that's part of it. If I jump back over to this zero cognitive load, this is the one that really threw me on my head a little bit, because I started looking at not only just what I was doing with all the childcare stuff that I do and all of our childcare clients at our agency, but I started looking at the way that I was describing things, and there was no way that any of it was zero cognitive load. It just wasn't. We're talking about the Montessori and STEM curriculum so that you can continue to build a well-rounded mind. Like, that isn't a zero cognitive. Well, what is STEM? What is Montessori? What I realized was that I was giving more industry knowledge across my website without having initially, keyword initially, zero cognitive load. So what would be an example of zero cognitive load? If they come to your website, what could be zero cognitive load? And it typically is something extremely simple. You're often overthinking it. There was a example that I read about that I thought was brilliant, and it was just so simple. There was an aquarium company that was selling into Petco and the different pet supply companies. And they were like, the kids come in, they see our aquariums, but they end up buying whatever, the mice or birds or whatever, some of the different animals, and they aren't buying enough of our aquariums. So they went through a messaging campaign, and on the front of the aquarium, they slapped on a phrase: kids love aquariums. So, well, Michael, that's so simple. It is, and what ended up happening was their sales skyrocketed. So simple scales, and I always thought that we had to really differentiate quickly because there's so many centers. But what I've quickly learned is that initially speaking, to grab them with that zero cognitive load, we need to have something simple. Example: affordable care, quality childcare. So, Michael, that's really, really simple. You don't have to think about it. Now, that's just the initial zero cognitive load hook. So if someone asks you what you do, and if you were to go ask everyone at your childcare center, what do we do? And I would encourage you to partake in this exercise. You're going to get 15 different answers. Well, we help educate young minds. We teach multiple languages. We relieve the stress on parents by giving good care. We're 3-star Texas certified. We make childcare affordable for everyone in the community. You're going to get all these different answers. Now, these things are all important, but they're after the fact of this zero cognitive load statement. The zero cognitive load statement needs to be something that resonates with you, but they do not have to have it explained. They don't have to think about it. Quality childcare, high quality care, reliable childcare, safe and affordable childcare. Something very, very simple. And then once they're into your funnel and they're coming for the tour and things like that, you can definitely start to tell them about all the other amazing things. But my homework assignment for you today is to look at how you can come up with a zero cognitive load statement for your website, for a talking point. When someone says, well, what do you guys do? And you can, again, have them ask, well, tell me more, and then you tell the rest of the story. But it's that notion around zero cognitive load. So quick recap. Number one is I'm looking for you to make sure that you are aware of all of the problems that your current families and other families are experiencing so that you can start to leverage that content. You can make sure that you are speaking to problems. People buy solutions to problems. People buy solutions to continue to survive. We're all survival minded. So I want you to really laser focus and see what can you do there by way of problems and the pain points. And then number two, how can you have a zero cognitive load statement that fits what you do, that can be explained after, but you don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about quality preschool, high quality preschool, safe and secure preschool, preschool readiness, childcare from X months to X years, like simple stuff that you don't have to think about. And then over the next couple of weeks, we'll start to work together on retooling and looking at, well, how does that then impact your tour a little bit? So if you're saying I should be simplifying, how does that then correlate to a tour? Stay tuned for next week. And as always, if we can help you in any way, visit our website, childcare.marketing. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.